Hey everybody, welcome to another CrushLivePoker.com hand review. And in today's episode, we're going to take a look at a tough spot that a young new player who started to become a regular on Live at the Bike got into this spot this past Friday. This particular hand was taken from our big game. Live at the Bike usually does a nosebleed game on Friday, and this particular night they were playing 50, 100, 200 with a $200 big blind to ante. One quick thing before we get into the hand, if you're interested in playing for real money online poker on a mobile app that is not an agent app, check out the information that I have in the description below, and I'll be talking more about this in future videos. So this hand starts off about $13,500 effective, gets folded around in the hijack, who's Lynne, and she's going to raise it up to 600 with King Jack offsuit. Pretty standard stuff. We're actually going to play from Lynne's perspective, and we're not going to know what our opponent has, kind of like we're playing a regular hand of poker. So our opponent here is Daniel in seat 9, and he's going to call on the button. Now, didn't really know a whole lot about Daniel. He's played on Live at the Bike maybe once or twice. He is not one of the high stakes pros. I believe he is a recreational player. The blinds fold, and we go to the flop heads up. So the board comes out ace of hearts, ace of spades, queen of clubs. And obviously, if we have king jack, we've got a gut shot to a 10. We're heads up, we're out of position. You could probably go either way with this. I mean, king jack is a gutter to a 10. It also is the nut no pair in this particular spot. So we probably could be doing a fair amount of checking, maybe some betting. I think that you would want to bet maybe more into two people as a semi bluff. Here, the hand probably has enough showdown value. So Lynne decides to check, which I'm perfectly okay with, and Daniel just quickly checks it back. So we roll the turn, and the turn's the 5 of hearts, and it puts out a backdoor heart draw. Now, at this point, again, we can sort of go either way with it. If we want to start a bet, possibly to, play like a kind of a delayed C bet to get somebody off of like pocket sixes, sevens, fours, threes, deuces, we can sort of do that. Also, too, like even if he had a hand like 5-6 suited, it's pretty difficult to call when you think about a check and then bet line on the turn. So again, this one's probably pretty close. Lynne decides to make a bet here, and she bets $900. And I'm sure that she'd be happy to just take the pot down right here. Obviously, that doesn't happen, and Daniel calls. Now, if I'm in Lynne's perspective, I'm definitely looking at the suits of my cards, and I have the Jack of Hearts, which makes it slightly less likely that the guy's picked up, some sort of heart draw or something like that. He certainly could have a queen that went check check. Him thinking that we might be sandbagging with an ace. It's possible that he could maybe be peeling with like eights or nines. I think it's probably, again, very close. But I think most likely his hand would be like a queen here or some sort of flush draw or something like that. So depending on what the river is, it's debatable whether or not we're going to bluff. If the river is, a brick like a deuce, maybe we do go bet to try to get him off of, some sort of random pair that he might have held on with. Some people would even overfold here, with a queen, something like that. But we rolled the river and we hit absolute gin playing out of Lynne's perspective. It's a 10, so that gives us a Broadway straight. Now the pot is about 35.50, so it's just a question of, hey, how much value, can we go for here? She actually ends up taking a kind of a large sizing. I probably would have bet slightly smaller here to try to target a queen, to try to sort of target some sort of hero call type of hand. It's really unlikely that he has an ace, a single paired ace that's not full the way that this hand is played out, a check on flop and then just a call on turn. I mean, I guess it's possible. So, you always want to think about your bet sizing not only based upon what you have in your hand, but what you think your opponent's range is and what, he might call with. She chooses a little bit of a larger sizing for 3,000. Now, obviously, if she does get called here, she's going to be good a ton. Usually, a better hand is going to raise here on the river. So also to note that this is a large bet for live poker. It's almost a pot size bet, and it was a check bet turn line and almost a pot size river line. Now, something obviously strange happens from our perspective, probably thinking that the options for our opponent are going to be fold or call. Daniel now goes into the tank a little bit and now raises to 11,000. And that's a really, really kind of gross spot playing out of Lynne's perspective here with King Jack. This raise obviously represents a full house. Even if he were to have a hand like King Jack, I think he would probably just flat here a fair amount. So this is really a full house or sometimes a bluff. It's a pretty polarizing spot by raising the river. I'm trying to think about, like, if I was in Lynne's perspective, if this guy would ever overplay a value hand that's worse than ours, like, for example, an unfull ace. And I just don't think that it's really possible with the way that the hand went down. Now, credibly, I mean, the thing that would jump out at me in terms of value here, if I was Lynne, would be like pocket fives. Obviously, there's three combinations of pocket fives and maybe pocket tens. Now, you have to look at the sort of how often would somebody get there with those hands, because sure, probably all the combinations of fives are going to call. They're probably going to check back flop. And then on the turn, maybe 1/3 of them raise, maybe less than that. I mean, there's three combos of fives, so you could look at maybe he shows up with two combos of fives, maybe like 2.5 combos of fives. Now, tens is another hand that he could have, but then you have to start thinking about, well, how often is he going to just flat call pre-flop with tens? Sure, the flop play is going to be played as a check. How often is he just not going to three bet off, pre-flop? Again, there's three combos of tens. So you sort of look at that and you say, well, maybe he shows up here with tens, like two of the three combos of tens. So now we've got two of the three combos of tens. Maybe we've got two of the three combos of fives. That's four value combos. What else? Well, how about ace queen? I'm going to throw out pocket queens, and I'm usually going to throw out, well, he can't have aces. Well, he could have four aces here too, but it's very, very unlikely due to pre-flop. And I'm also going to throw out pocket queens. So now we look at ace queen. Well, there's two aces out there and there's one queen on the board. A quick way to do sort of combinations work is how many of each card are left in the deck. There's two aces left and three queens. So there's six combos of ace queen left when there's two aces on the board and a queen on the board. You think about, well, how often is he three betting those hands too? A lot of people are going to three bet ace queen, hijack versus button. Let's say he three bets off maybe half of the ace queens, and then, okay, so he's got half of the ace queens in the hand, but how often does he just play it as a check back and then call turn? Even if you were to do that 100% of the time, let's give him three ace queens. So now we've got three ace queens, we've got sort of two pocket fives, two pocket tens types of hands. That's sort of like seven value hands. A hand like ace 10 is probably unlikely. Again, played as just a check back and a call turn. I think it's possible we could maybe give him like one combo of ace 10. So we're really looking at 8 value combos. And if we're trying to sort of find a bluff, if we don't think he's really raising here with anything for value that is worse than our hand, it's pretty simple when you look at the math in terms of ratios of bluff to value. Here, she bets 3,000. He raises to 11,000. So she's getting almost 2-1 basically on the call. 30 to 33% equity. She's getting slightly over 2-1. But we can actually put that in a ratio sort of format here, meaning that if he's got 8 value hands, can we find, say, like 4 bluffs? If he had 4 bluffs and he had 8 value hands, if we were getting 2-1, then it would be a neutral sort of EV call. But in reality, can we really find 4 bluffs here? I mean, and I think one of the things that really tips this hand is the fact that it's such a large bet size at the end. If you bet something like 1,000 on the river into, say, 3,350, it's possible you could talk yourself into an aggressive player, kind of sussing that out as some sort of thin value bet with a queen or pocket kings and possibly trying to take advantage of you. But when you go check, then bet 900, then 3,000, I don't know if I can really find 4 bluff combos if he has, say, like 8 credible value combos here. Now, when we talk about minimum defense frequency, sure. Is King Jack going to be, if we're getting 2-1, say, or excuse me, is King Jack going to be, if he makes a pot size raise, Is it going to be, say, like in the top 50% of hands that we arrive here with? Yeah, probably. But again, that assumes that a recreational player is going to have enough bluffs here against this line. I mean, it is very, very dicey, and it's kind of a really, really tough spot because I think in the heat of the moment, we might think that our opponent might raise off most of the ace queens preflop, and we might not necessarily know that. Even at the highest stakes, really the frequency of getting raised on the river in the form of a check raise or with a raise on the river in position after we've shown strength is pretty small. Even at the high stakes, people definitely do not raise probably what is, say, game theory optimal. So we can usually lean towards overfolding in spots like this, maybe not to high stakes, really aggressive professionals, but definitely down at the levels of like 2-5 and even 5-10, which is where I've cut my teeth for the last 10 or 15 years. Here, you're on Live at the Bike. You're Lynne's probably one of the first high stakes games that you've been playing that's been televised. You don't really want to get bluffed off the hand here. It's really close the way that it sort of goes down, and I definitely don't envy her spot at all. And she does make the call. And Daniel's gonna win just over 25,000 in this pot. Almost stacks her, leaves her with a little bit. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to check out more training videos like this, head over to crushlivepoker.com. And of course, check out Live at the Bike every Tuesday through Friday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time over on their YouTube or Twitch channel.